Hey, you guys, welcome to another episode of the Beauty Business Babes podcast. This is your girl, Kelly Callaghan. And today I am here with Miss Katrina Wu. I'm so excited to have you. I actually just met her in person at my house for the first time, like in January, actually, for my baby boy's birthday. So thank you so much for coming. I know that was a trek.
Yes, I am so excited. I was glad to be there. It was so nice to connect with you in person, and I'm so happy to be here on the podcast.
Awesome. I'm so glad you're here. We were just talking about this, and we haven't had too many manifestation coaches on here. We haven't had talked too much about like mamas and how mamapreneurship works and all of these things. So I know that you're going to add so much value to these women's lives, and I can't wait to hear more about your story and giving us tangible tips so that way we can use that in our business and in our lives. So Miss Katrina is from Manifestation Mama, and she helps high achieving moms break free from the hustle. Lord knows I need that.
Yes, we all do.
She helps women regulate their nervous system, set boundaries, and be present for their kids, which is something I think we can all use. So do you mind doing just a quick introduction of who you are, what you do, and how you got into this? It's such a cool story. I love it.
Yes, thank you so much for that introduction. And I'll try to make it quick because usually my story, it can go on a little bit. But so what do? I work with high achieving moms, like you said. So that could be entrepreneurs. It could be people in corporate, just women who are feeling burned out really is what it's all about. And how I got into this work is really through the subconscious reprogramming that I did for myself. And I started as an attorney. That's really my story. When people ask me that question, I practiced for about 7-8 years, and I had 2 kids. And I was really just like overwhelmed and just feeling like I checked all the boxes in life of what I thought I wanted, like the career and the family and the home. And like, why is it that I'm still like overwhelmed and feeling just not happy in my life, not feeling joy and excitement when I get up in the morning, but just feeling like worried and overwhelmed. And so I started to do really just inner work for myself, really shifting my mindset on what it means to be a lawyer and be a mom, and all of the things that I thought it meant. I reshifted that, and I really programmed my subconscious mind through hypnosis and hypnotherapy and all kinds of different tools and modalities. And then I went back to work because this all happened when I was on maternity leave. And so when I went back to work, I was like a completely different person. And so I fell in love with being an attorney again. And I was able to really focus at work and be productive. And I would like meditate on my lunch break. And then I would come home and I would just be present with the kids. And so I realized that when we think like, oh, if you're in, high achieving woman and you're successful, that means that we have to like sacrifice our children and the time that we can spend with them, that was really just a lie. That was programming. And that there's a way to do it where if we can really do that inner work, we can be present at work and then present with our kids. And then I ended up, COVID happened and I ended up getting laid off. And I was like, okay, I would love to have more time freedom. So maybe this is an opportunity for me to step into that. And what could that look like? And then, one kind of step led to another. And I got into coaching. And now I work with women who are feeling that overwhelm, who are feeling that stress, but who are like, they're high achieving, like they have the results in their life and they want to feel more of that like presence with their kids. They want to get out of that burnout hustle mindset and that culture that I think we're just programmed to believe like, this is the way it has to be. It has to be this way. It's like, actually, no, there's another way. And I think a lot of us know that deep down inside, which is why there's that conflict. There's that pain because we know like, is this really the way that it has to be? Or is there something else out there? So that's kind of how I got into this work. And I love it. I love the work that I do. And it really is a inner work. And once I truly believe once we do that inner work, our outer reality is really going to transform.
Absolutely. I love this. And it speaks to me so much because in different times in my career, I've felt this overwhelm, right? And I'm taking a week off next week because this is the first time in like a very long time that I've actually felt burnt out. So I was like, you know what? I feel it coming. I need to take some time off and just like chill. Like I'm going to lunch with my girlfriends. Like I was telling you earlier, we're going to the wineries. We're going to have like a good time. So I know a lot of women struggle with this and in different variations and different forms within their career. So I'm thinking about the woman who's dealing with this right now, right? Like somebody who's high achieving, who has different salons within the beauty industry, who's helping so many people. What would you say the first step is for that mama or that entrepreneur who is overwhelmed to try to regulate her life and to kind of switch that to make it better for herself?
Yeah, I mean, I always say that the first step is that awareness, because I think most of the time we aren't even aware of what we're doing. We're just like on autopilot and we're just going. Yeah. And so I think that first step is having that awareness, like, oh, like I'm noticing this. I'm noticing that I'm feeling overwhelmed. And I love how you listened to your inner guidance that was telling you, okay, it's time for a break. It's time for a break. Because so often we ignore that voice because we hear it, right? We hear that voice saying, slow down, like, and we just push through like, no, I can do this. I've done it so many times in my life as well, where I just push through, ignoring my inner guidance. And now I think that nurturing that relationship, right, with yourself, with your intuition and listening to yourself, such a powerful step when you hear that voice telling you, okay, maybe it's time to slow down, like look at that and think about that and maybe take some time for yourself. And that comes from awareness. It comes from that awareness of, okay, let me look at things in my life. Like, where am I getting triggered? Where am I getting overwhelmed? Where am I having maybe outbursts of anger or frustration? And just taking note of those areas in your life and not judging yourself, not getting down on yourself, but just looking at it from a place of awareness and giving yourself that like compassion and kindness. And then once you have that awareness of like, okay, this is what's going on and it doesn't feel in alignment with what I want, with the life that I want, I really think it's calming and regulating your nervous system. We're on high alert because we're on stress. We've got all this like cortisol and epinephrine like pumping through our body because we have a deadline or we have a launch or we have something going on. And we're like, our body thinks like this is a threat. And so I need to focus and stress and handle the threat. Like it's life or death, right? And it's not life or death. It really isn't, but our body thinks it is. And so we're under all this stress and we're not doing anything to help regulate our nervous system. So I think that is truly the second step, is having some kind of practice. Could be, 3 minutes of breathing, a 3-minute meditation. It could be going for a walk, like moving your body. Everyone kind of has a different way that they can calm their nervous system. I like to use a little bit of everything. I even started utilizing CBD to help regulate my nervous system. There's this amazing brand that I can share as well, where it's all, USDA certified organic. So it's like, I use the CBD, I do my breath work, I do the meditation, and it's little things, little rituals, even like when I sit down to work, I light my candle, I have flowers, I take some deep breaths, I focus on gratitude. It's like these little rituals that we can do that we hear about all the time. We're like, oh, is that really going to make a difference? But it can. It's what it does is it puts us in the present moment. Instead of worrying about the future or thinking about the past, it puts us right here in the present moment. Even just like grabbing this candle and like looking at it for a few minutes, like even 60 seconds, and just noticing the candle burn, noticing the colors. It just puts you back in the present moment. And so that's why I love breath work the most, like out of all the tools, because some people might say like, oh, I can't just sit and meditate. I can't sit and meditate either. I like to listen to something and I like to do breathing. So I'll just like play a song for maybe a minute or two and I'll do some conscious breathing and it just calms you down. So I think that is kind of step 2, is calming your nervous system, figuring out what works for you to get yourself into the present moment and not in fight or flight. Because when we're in fight or flight, we're in survival mode. And it's really hard to create from that place of survival, but we do it. And how do we do it? We hustle, push.
Such a crazy concept, this whole like, I'm all about girl power and girl empowerment and everything like that. And for years, I was just like, oh, you have to hustle. You have to hustle. And you know what? You do. Like, you can't just like sit there and just hope that everything just comes to you without doing any of the work. You do have to hustle. There are times and places for this, but you definitely don't have to hustle 24/7. And I think as of the last couple of years, I've done a really good job at trying to take off a lot of what I had going on and delegate that work to somebody else, automate, systemize, and really take less ownership of what is going on within my businesses, because it's a lot. And I just did a solo episode. We're not machines. Like, we're not meant to be on this hamster wheel of go, 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 go. And something that I always think about is slow down to speed up. And it's really helped me in my business, because I had this shame. Even if I like rested for a day, I would have this deep shame of, you're not doing enough. Why aren't you up? Like at this point I didn't have kids. So, you don't have any kids, you're not married, like you have no excuse to not work. And that was kind of like the voice that was constantly in my head. And I was beating myself up all the time. And now I've realized, as I've grown into, this year and even the year before, I've realized that, our business overall is doing better financially than it's ever done before. And it's because I'm not doing all of the things. So I love talking about this, because I think women still have this like girl boss mode, like I need to hustle and masculine energy, where you don't have to. You do have to for a certain amount of time. And like, there's a time and place for this, but it doesn't have to be 24/7.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think I love that phrase, like slow down to speed up, because it really is true. I remember in my business as an attorney, as a mom, there are so many times where I would just like instead of like taking my lunch, I would just go and meditate, and I would like spend 20 minutes meditating. And then I would like, eat my food quickly, and I would get back to work. And I was so like focused and clear. I got way more done than I would have done if I just pushed through it. And so often we think like, no, I just need to push through it and push through it. And that's really what the hustle is. Yes, you've got to work. We've got to work. You've got to take action, right? This, manifestation mama, it's not like we're sitting on the couch and we're like visualizing and thinking and things just like fall into our lap. I mean, sometimes sometimes it does happen that way, and sometimes it does happen. I'm not going to lie, but most of the time you do have to take action. You do have to actually take steps into the physical world, in this physical world, to see things manifest in your reality. And so, yes, we're taking action. And especially when you're building something, when you're building a business, right? Those early steps, you're going to be putting in, that time and that effort. But when you take that time for yourself to slow down for a few minutes, it pays back so much more, because you come from a place of clarity so that you can focus versus like scarcity, right? Because if you think about it, if you're hustling, you're in a scarcity mindset that like, there's not enough time in the day. I've got to go, or there's not enough, whatever it is, it's a scarcity kind of mindset when you're pushing. But when you take that time to slow down, you're telling yourself, you're telling the universe, you're telling your experience, like there's time. I can take this time for myself because there's an abundance of time. And when you're in that framework and that mindset of abundance, that's what you start to create. You start to create abundance. And really, like time, we can create more time by taking that time for ourselves. And it's incredible. And you start to practice it. And like you've seen it in your life, it really does make more time for yourself. Like it adds time to the day when you take those few minutes for yourself.
For sure. And I love that you mentioned that, because my mind was like, take a day off. But no, like take breaks in between your day too. I love breath work as well. And that's something that I go to immediately anytime I feel like I'm just getting stressed, overwhelmed. I'm like, girl, just sit down. This is accessible anytime, and just take like 3 to 5 just full, deep, like belly breaths. And it seriously is such a game changer, especially when like you're doing something that you're scared of. Like I just did a speaking engagement last week, and I was like, or 2 weeks ago, and I was like, terrified. I was like, I don't know any of these people. It was the biggest conference that I've ever spoken at. And before, though, I had to take like my deep breaths, and then I was like, good, everything went well. And it really is a great tool that you can access at any point in time, any day, so take those breaks in between your clients if you need to, or if you find yourself getting overwhelmed, like I've been feeling recently, like take the time for you, because you are useless if you don't have your energy, or if you don't have like your awareness, anything. If you're just all chaotic in your mind, like it's just not going to work for you. It's not going to work for your family. It's not going to work for your clients or anything like that. So because you touched up on a little bit of manifestation, I wanted to talk a little bit about that, because I know my girls love some LOA, some law of attraction talk. So I wanted to hear from you well, first off, let's define what that is first for those listeners who don't know what that is.
Yeah. So manifestation, what it means is it's something that is a thought that comes into the physical reality. So if you look around, right, everything was a thought first, like this coffee mug, this microphone, everything that we see in this world that is something that was created, it started with the thought, right? Even, there's like the Big Bang Theory, right? I love the way that some people are starting to call it like the big thought, right? Like it started with the thought. So everything we see in this world, it starts with a thought. And so that manifestation is taking something that is a thought and bringing it into the physical world. And how do we do that? We take action, we take steps. So manifestation isn't, like I said, we're sitting on a couch and then things just fall into place. We have a thought, we have an intention, and then we take steps and it manifests in our world. And so you might think like, okay, that's great. So why am I not manifesting what it is that I want? I have this conscious desire, for example, and I'm not seeing it in my reality. Or maybe you're like, it feels like it's a struggle to get there, or it feels hard. Like it's because of our subconscious programming. It's because from ages 0 to 7, 8 years old, we are a subconscious mind. We're like in a deep hypnosis state where our brain waves are at a level that is very similar to hypnosis. So if you imagine our children, they're in this brain state that is subconscious, or when we're as children, we're in this really deep state. And so we're just absorbing everything that we see. And, people can say things to us and we're absorbing, but we're absorbing mostly what we see, right? Not what we're told. And so we might see things like, our parents fight about money and we don't know the full circumstances and why they were fighting. We think, oh, money is bad. It makes people fight. Right. Or we might see our mom like working really hard and we think, oh, like that is the only way to be successful, is we have to work really hard. And, so there's all these different beliefs and thoughts that we develop as a child. And then we become an adult and we're ready to manifest and we have our intention. So our intention is our conscious thought, our conscious, desire. And the conscious is only responsible for like 5% of our thoughts. 95% of our thoughts are unconscious. They're the subconscious mind. And this is a good thing, right? Because we don't want to sit and think like, oh, my heart, come on, heart, let's start beating, or,
right.
Come on, like, let digestive system, let's start working. Like everything is automated and it's just working. And that goes with so many of our thoughts. 95% of our thoughts, we're not even aware of that. And this is, it's important for survival, but if there's these beliefs that we have that are in conflict with what we desire, even if consciously we're like, no, this is what I desire. This is what I want to build in my business. This is the life that I want to lead. This is how I want to live with my family, with my children, the kind of mom I want to be, kind of business owner I want to be. But there's like a disconnect. We're not going to see it in our reality. And we could like push really, and that's where like the hustle really comes in, because you have to push so hard to overcome that belief. And then you see it in your physical reality. Whereas the work that I do with manifestation is shifting the subconscious beliefs on a subconscious level so that you don't have to push so hard and hustle so hard, because we're taking aligned and inspired action. And it's all in alignment with our subconscious beliefs and what we desire. When you hear people say like collapsing time and space, or, quantum shifts, or these like things that kind of happen really fast, it's because the subconscious and the conscious are in alignment, and it can happen really fast.
Yeah.
Manifestation. And we're all manifestors. So it's not like, oh, I don't know, like if I'm manifesting, like you're manifesting. I mean, you are, right? Like your office that you have, this beautiful office, you're like, that was a thought, right? Started with the thought.
And people have a hard time believing that because there is bad stuff that happens in this world, So like they don't want to take responsibility for manifesting something like that. And I will say that I've manifested bad stuff without even like realizing I did until afterwards. It's like, oh, well, I was thinking about this thing happening and then it happened. I was like, I didn't want it to happen, but I kept on like thinking about it. So it's interesting because, I know that ever since I read The Secret when I was 21 years old, it has absolutely changed my life. And that was like my first introduction of like what the law of attraction was. But it's funny because as I was reading that book, I remember like things happening when I was little where it's like, that felt like I was manifesting. So just as an example, like I remember playing softball and I would just know when I was going to hit that ball far. I just knew it. And so when I would hit the ball far, I was like, oh, like I just knew that was going to happen. I thought it was just like my intuition, something like that, right? Which part of it is. And so when I read that book, I was like, oh, wow. So like this means I can like get anything that I want. And it wasn't like, it was fairly easy, right? Because I started realizing like, okay, my intention. So I want to move to Hawaii. So I moved to Hawaii. Oh, I want to quit my job. So I quit my job. I want to be a bartender. So I was a bartender, even though I had like no bartending experience. Like all of these things started happening for me. And I was like, this is so crazy how real and powerful this is, because I didn't realize how powerful I was. And it wasn't until those moments of like practicing the law of attraction that I was like, I could have anything I want. And it's interesting because every new level that I've obtained for like, this law of attraction game, essentially, like I've realized like I've also had to shed stuff, like my old behaviors, my old thought patterns, my old beliefs. Like I had to recreate my beliefs and like who I was as a person in order to get to that next level of manifestation, if that makes sense, any sense.
It makes perfect sense. Yeah. It's like you have to embody your future self now. Like we think, oh, like once I have that thing or reach that goal, then I'm going to like have that happiness or have that feeling of success and fulfillment. We're always like waiting for the thing to come. Yeah. And it's like manifestation. It's actually the reverse process. You have the feeling and you embody that person who already has it. And then it comes. And that's what the law of attraction is. And there's so many different laws that govern the universe. And there's even just like 20 that I like have learned about and really focused on, like the law of vibration, which is, this idea that we are all energy and vibrating beings. And you're like, what are you talking about, Katrina? Like I'm like solid, right? But when you look at anything under a microscope at a microscopic level, before when I was in school, it was, we're solid and like the atom is like, there's like the solid circle, in the middle. And then there's these like solid parts around it. And it was like all solid. But now it's all energy, like it's moving, it's actually vibrating. Yeah. And so even though everything's solid, it's actually all energy, like 98% of ourselves and everything that exists is energy. And so there's a frequency and there's this, law of vibration. There's the law of taking action. There's all these different laws that govern. And so, yes, the law of attraction is one of them, that we attract what we're putting out, and that our whatever we are vibrating at, the certain frequency, we're going to attract things at that frequency. But we also have to take action, right? And I think that's a big part of, this conversation of like, what is manifestation? It's about taking action, but from what energy are we taking that action? From what frequency are we taking that action? And as you were sharing, like, who are we embodying as we take that action? And so I love to work with my clients on really visualizing and creating, like, who is that person who's living the life that I really desire? What decisions does she make? What behaviors does she have? What routines and rituals? What does she think about? What does she consume? How is she spending her day? And really creating that picture, becoming that woman how does she feel? How does she feel throughout her day, and becoming that woman, and then taking action from that place of embodiment. And then it's like, that's when it starts to really just come, and you start to attract those opportunities and those situations that really just allow your business to expand. And it's so exciting to experience that in life.
It's so cool. Like, I just look at life and business and like the law of attraction. Everything's like a game to me. I'm like, I just want to unlock to that next level. Like, how do I do that? And so it's really, really cool to be able to play around with it. So even if you're new to the concept of law of attraction, and I thought that you explained it perfectly well, because a lot of people, they miss the action part when they explain the law of attraction manifestation. And so a lot of people have a bad taste in their mouth because they're just like, well, I can't just, like you said, sit on a couch and just like hope that an elephant's going to show up in the room. That's just like not how it works. So the first thing is intention, and part of that is like believing that you can actually get the goal or whatever it is that you want, and then taking the action, the inspired action that you need to take in order to start making the steps towards there. And I'm all about baby stepping. So like, it's not like you have to leap forward in any certain amount of time. It's just like one step after the other, after the other. And then, as I think Martin Luther King said, like the staircase will show itself, right? So I just love the way that you explain that, because for people who are listening who are new to this, they're probably understanding it a little bit better and being like, okay, well, I'm a little bit more open-minded to that concept than just being like, hey, everything just comes to me so easily.
Yes. And I love that idea of just taking like one small step, because I think we get overwhelmed when we think we have to figure out everything and know exactly how we're going to get there. Like, it's like, you put your destination in GPS, right? And you might go right or left, and the GPS is going to bring you back on the right path to get to your destination. And so we don't have to have every single step figured out. Like, we can't, it's impossible. And I truly believe that we are co-creating with the higher power, whether you want to call that your intuition, your higher self, God, source, universe, whatever, works for you. But it really is like that higher self, that version of ourselves that's like, come this way, drawing you to that future. We don't have to have it all figured out. Like, we're not going to have it all figured out. And I think that's part of the fun of being an entrepreneur, is that it is kind of a game. Like, let me figure this out. And maybe I'm going to try this thing and it works. Or maybe I'm going to try something else. And it's like just not giving up on that destination, on that vision, and just taking one inspired step at a time. But it's important to get into that place where you can take inspired action, because your nervous system is regulated, because your subconscious and your conscious are in alignment, and you're able to move forward in that way. It's going to happen a lot faster for you. And I do want to mention something, because being an entrepreneur, it's not always like high. Like, we're not always feeling like so good and so confident. Like, we're going to have our ups and downs. And that doesn't mean that you can't manifest what you desire because you have a bad day, or because you're feeling down. You're like, oh no, I'm having these thoughts and I'm feeling down and I'm feeling overwhelmed. Like, what am I going to manifest? We're like scared, and it's like, no, it's okay. Like, we're humans. Like, we're going to have a human experience. We're going to have the ups and the downs and the highs and lows. And that doesn't mean we're going to like manifest something that we don't want because we're like having a bad day. It's like, no, it doesn't work that way. And we do live in a world of duality. So there are bad things that happen. There's seasons, there's life and death, right? There's free will. There's all of these different things that are going on. And so, not blaming ourselves like, oh, like, what did I create? What am I doing? But really just looking at it from a neutral perspective of like, oh, this is interesting that this is happening. Like, is there something, that I'm going through that I'm ignoring or that I need to address? And just looking at it from more of a place of like curiosity, like having a curious mind, instead of judging ourselves or thinking like, oh my gosh, like, what am I creating? Just looking at it with curiosity and not judging ourselves. Because I think coming from that, condemning ourselves or judging ourselves, it makes us feel yucky and it's not supportive. Like, I always ask myself, like, does this support me in my life? So if you're thinking about manifestation, ask yourself, like, does this support me in my life? Like, does this support me to think like taking care of myself and regulating my nervous system and getting my beliefs in line with my desires? Like, does this support me? And if it does, great. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. There isn't like one truth for everyone. Like it's okay to have different opinions and beliefs, but just ask yourself, like, does this support me? Does this feel good and support me in my life?
Such a good question. I love that. And I just wanted to kind of touch on something really quick, because I think a lot of women who are listening might be like, I want to embody that person, right? Like that higher self that we're talking about right now. And I wanted to share something that worked for me and that I was just actually thinking about last night. For years, I've done a visualization exercise. When I go to sleep, I don't do it every day. I just do it a couple times a week or so, but I'll visualize my highest self and I'll visualize what she looks like, who she's surrounded by, what she's hearing, what she's feeling, what she's seeing, all of these things that are happening. And I realized, like, not even consciously, but subconsciously, I always found myself on a stage. And the stage was the same exact stage I just spoke on 2 weeks ago, which is like insane to me. I just got chills.
Yeah, me too.
It's so cool because it's been years that I was seeing this person. And so the fact that I was able to actually manifest that in reality is like, I didn't even recognize that until literally last night, which is perfect timing for this podcast, right? Like we rescheduled this podcast, so maybe it's divine timing. I wanted to share that with people because I want you to know that, like, even though you may not know all the answers, or you may not feel like your best self, or you may not know exactly how to embody your highest version of yourself, you can start off by like visualizing who that person is and like who you want to become. So for me, that's somebody that, walks her dog, gets outside more, like goes to the gym, takes care of herself. Like I used to drink a lot when I was in my 20s. I used to party like crazy when I was in my 20s. And that was what I was known for. Like I had a bunch of friends back then. And now I'm like, I can't even imagine that lifestyle. Like that's just so chaotic to me. That does not suit me. Like I don't mind drinking the occasional wine here and there, but like it just does not suit who I want to be. So those are the things that has worked for me. And hopefully that's something that would work for you as well, whoever's listening out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I love visualization. It's such a powerful tool. And our subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what we're actually experiencing in reality and what we're imagining. So when we're visualizing, when we're imagining, like it's like real life. It really truly is. And that's why, like, when you watch a scary movie, you can feel the stress response. Like, your heart rate may increase because your subconscious mind doesn't know. So it's putting you in that fight or flight. And so we can use that as a tool to start embodying our future self and really just getting a picture of what, like you said, what she's looked like, who she's with, and all get as detailed as you can. And then think about what kind of decisions would she make, and make your decisions and take your action from that place of like, I'm already her. It makes such a big difference.
I love that. And when you have that like strong visual, it's so easy to say no to the distractions or to say no to the things that don't suit who that person is. It's just easy. Like you don't have to think about it because you already have this idea of who you are becoming, So it's so cool. I love this. This has been such a great episode. Thank you so much, Katrina, for being here and sharing your expertise and your love and energy with us. I wanted everyone to know where they could find you. So if you don't mind sharing maybe your Instagram, your website, any offers you might have, that'd be awesome.
Yes, absolutely. So right now I am doing one-on-one coaching, and I have an incredible program where we do all the shifting on the subconscious mind and all of the reprogramming. And it's an incredible program. You can learn more at www.yourinspiredmindset.com. You can also email me, Katrina at yourinspiredmindset. And I also am very active on Instagram, and my handle is Katrina Manifestation Mama. I also have a podcast, the Manifestation Mama podcast. You can listen there, and would love to connect with anyone.
Awesome. Yes. Send her a DM. We're going to put all of that information in the show notes so you guys can see that. And yeah, I just love this. This is so fun. This is like what my soul needed.
I love it. Thank you so much. This was such a great conversation. It was so fun.
Thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll see you guys on the next episode of the Beauty Business Babes podcast.